In the quiet heart of the eastern hills of Nigeria lay a small village called Ngopu, a place where the morning sun rose lazily over rusted zinc roofs, and the songs of roosters mixed with the laughter of barefoot children running through red dust roads. Ngopu was a village of farmers and petty traders, a place where everyone knew everyone, and stories traveled faster than the wind. In one of the smallest mud houses near the edge of the village lived a boy named Emeka. He was the first son of Mama Ngozi and Papa Ejike, a couple whose lives had been an endless wrestle with poverty. Their home had no ceiling, only wooden beams stained by smoke from the kerosene lamp that fought the darkness each night. The floor was bare earth, swept smooth every morning by Mama Ngozi, whose cracked hands told tales of work and hunger. Papa Ejike pushed barrows at the village market, not the kind of barrows with rubber tires, but old, wooden ones whose wheels squeaked like hungry rats. Every morning, before the first light broke through the mist, he would tie his wrapper around his waist, cough into the chilly air, and trudge off to the market, hoping that someone, anyone, would need help carrying goods. Some days he earned a few naira. Some days, nothing at all. Emeka's mother, on the other hand, sold vegetables, bitter leaf, okra, garden eggs, all from a small tray she balanced on her head. Her feet were always swollen from long walks to neighboring villages, and her wrapper often tore at the edges. Yet, she was known for her smile, a smile that refused to fade even when her stomach grumbled like thunder. But in Ngopu, poverty was not just a state of life, it was a brand. People could smell it on you, like the smoke from a wood fire. Children from wealthier homes mocked those who wore torn clothes, and the poor were seen as lazy or cursed. So, Emeka's family became the target of laughter and whispers. "Look at Emeka's shorts," one boy would sneer. "Even mosquitoes can pass through them." Another would laugh and add, "His father pushes barrow, his mother sells vegetables." No wonder. Emeka would pretend not to hear, but the words sank deep into his young heart like thorns. He wanted to go to school like the other boys. He wanted to sit in a classroom, wear a uniform, write on a slate, and raise his hand when the teacher asked questions. But dreams, in Ngopu, were not free. His parents could barely afford to feed him, let alone pay school fees. When he was 8, Emeka stopped going to school altogether. His mother had no choice but to hand him a small tray of vegetables one morning and said, her eyes wet, "My son, go to the market and help me sell this. Maybe today, we will have something to eat." So Emeka began hawking vegetables under the hot sun, shouting in the streets, "Fresh ugu! Fresh bitter leaf!" He would walk barefoot across dusty roads, sweat soaking through his faded shirt. Some people would buy. Many would not. Some would mock him. But he never talked back. He only tightened his grip on the tray and whispered to himself, "One day, I will make it. One day." At night, when the moon was full and the frogs croaked in the stream behind their house, Emeka would lie on the mat beside his younger siblings and stare at the zinc roof above him. The holes in it allowed him to see a few stars twinkling faintly. He would whisper to himself, "Those stars are rich people's eyes watching us. But one day, I will join them up there." His father often came home with tired eyes, his back bent from pushing heavy loads all day. "My son," he would say, patting Emeka's head, "poverty is a stubborn goat. If you push it today, it will come back tomorrow. But if you refuse to give up, it will one day get tired and leave." Those words planted a seed in Emeka's heart, a seed that grew with every insult, every hunger pang, every night he went to bed without food. Then one day, at the age of 16, Emeka decided. He looked around at the cracked walls of their house, the broken plates, the tired faces of his siblings, and he said to himself, enough. He woke up before dawn, packed the only shirt and trouser he had into a nylon bag, and wrote a small note for his parents. Mama and Papa, don't cry. I am going to find a better life for us. I will not rest until you never go hungry again. He placed the note beside his sleeping mother, looked at her face one last time, and stepped quietly into the cold morning mist. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew he could not stay. He followed the long, winding path that led out of Ngopu, past the cassava farms and through the whispering trees. The world ahead was wide and uncertain, but his heart burned with determination. And as he walked, barefoot and alone, he whispered the words that would define his life. I would do anything humanly possible to take my family out of poverty. That was the day Emeka of Ngopu began his journey, a journey that would break him many times before it finally made him. When Emeka left Ngopu that misty morning, the sky was still half asleep. The cock had crowed only once, and the earth still smelled of night rain. He walked for hours along the lonely red road, his bare feet sinking into soft mud. He didn't know where his legs would carry him, but his heart was stronger than his fear. He stopped only when the sun had risen high, burning the world golden. A lorry passed by, its body shaking like a hungry drum. The driver slowed down to take passengers. Emeka waved desperately, clutching his nylon bag. Where you dey go, boy? The driver shouted. Anywhere better than here. Emeka replied breathlessly. The driver laughed, the kind of laughter that comes from surprise and pity. You no get money, ABI. Emeka shook his head slowly. Enter. God go help you. That was how Emeka found himself heading to Onitsha, a city whose air buzzed with noise, ambition, and dust, a place where traders shouted like thunder and money smelled like sweat. When he arrived, he had no one to meet, no relative, no friend. But he remembered what his father used to say, the man who stands before the storm learns how to walk faster than the wind. So he began his search. The first struggle, the market boy. For 2 days, he wandered through Onitsha main market, his stomach growling like a trapped animal. He slept under a stall one night and woke up shivering. But on the third day, luck smiled faintly. A vegetable seller named Madam Uju saw him sitting near her stand, weak and dusty. Young boy, why are you sitting there like a lost goat? She asked. I'm looking for work, auntie. I can carry load, sweep, wash, anything, Emeka replied, his voice trembling. She looked at him, pity softening her eyes. You remind me of my younger brother. Okay, start by helping me carry these baskets. I will give you food. That day, Emeka ate for the first time in 2 days, rice and beans that tasted like a feast. He worked for Madam Uju for months, carrying heavy baskets, shouting prices, chasing customers, learning how the market breathed. But after 6 months, one of Madam Uju's sons returned from Lagos and took over his place. My son is back, she told him kindly. You have been good to me, but I cannot keep 2 boys. Emeka thanked her with tears in his eyes, took his small bag, and walked away once more, back into the uncertain streets. The second struggle, the apprentice dream. Soon after, Emeka met a man named Oga Moses, a spare parts trader who was looking for an apprentice. Do you know how to read and write? The man asked. Emeka lowered his eyes. No, sir. I didn't finish school. Oga Moses sighed, rubbing his chin. It will be hard, but if you are serious, I will take you. You will work for me for 6 years, and then I will settle you. 6 years sounded like a lifetime. But what choice did he have? He accepted. For the first 2 years, he worked from dawn till night, carrying goods, cleaning the shop, running errands. He learned how to greet customers, how to smile even when angry, how to pretend you were fine even when hungry. But life is never smooth. One day, A disagreement broke out between him and the storekeeper, another apprentice who envied his dedication. The man accused Emeka of stealing 5,000 Nigerian nairas from the shop. Emeka's heart nearly stopped. "I didn't take it. I swear," he cried. But Oga Moses was furious. "My friend, get out of my shop before I call police." And just like that, after 2 years of hard labor, Emeka was thrown out, penniless, homeless, and broken. That night, he slept under the Niger Bridge, listening to the river sigh beneath him. The city lights twinkled across the water, mocking his pain. He wept quietly, calling on God, "Is this how I would die, after leaving home to find a better life?" But somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "The path of greatness is often walked barefoot." So he rose again. The third struggle, the hustler. From Onitsha, he moved to Asaba, hoping for a fresh start. There, he tried selling sachet water, but the profit was too small. Then he sold phone chargers by the roadside, sometimes making 500 Nigerian nairas a day, sometimes nothing. He saved every kobo he could, eating only once a day, sleeping in unfinished buildings. His skin darkened under the sun, his feet cracked, but his spirit refused to die. At times, he wanted to go home. But there was no phone, no address to send a letter, no way to reach his family. He didn't even know if they were still alive. All he could do was pray. At night, after a long day of struggle, he would look up at the stars and whisper, "Mama, I'm trying. I haven't forgotten my promise." Years passed. By 21, he had tried more trades than he could count, selling bread, pushing wheelbarrows, helping masons at construction sites, even washing cars. Some days, he slept hungry. Some days, he was beaten by area boys for standing in the wrong place. But every fall only made him stronger. He remembered his mother's voice like a song in his head. "My son, never curse the day you were born poor. Poverty is only a visitor, one day it will go if you keep your heart clean." And so, he did not give up. The turning point, a spark of light. At 23, a small miracle happened. While working at a car wash in Asaba, Emeka met a man named Mr. Okafor, a kind customer who often observed how hardworking he was. One day, after watching Emeka scrub a car with quiet dedication under the sun, the man called him aside. "Young man, I've been watching you for months. You work like someone who is chasing something bigger than soap and sponge." Emeka smiled weakly. "Sir, I'm chasing a better life. I just want to help my family." Mr. Okafor nodded slowly. "I own a small electronics shop. I need someone I can trust. Come work for me." That single sentence changed everything. For the first time, Emeka had a roof over his head and regular food. Mr. Okafor treated him like a son, teaching him how to manage money, how to deal with customers, how to plan. Within a year, Emeka learned how to run a small business from scratch. He started saving again, little by little, like a squirrel storing nuts. He prayed daily, thanking God for every breath, every coin. The blessing arrives. By the time he turned 24, something remarkable happened. A supplier who often delivered goods to Mr. Okafor's shop noticed Emeka's intelligence and honesty. One day, he said, "Young man, if I give you some items on credit, can you sell them and return my money?" Emeka nodded firmly. "I will not disappoint you, sir." And he didn't. He sold everything within weeks, returned the money, and earned his first real profit. The supplier was impressed and gave him more goods. This time, Emeka sold faster. Before long, he rented a small kiosk of his own, a modest corner shop with a wooden sign that read, "Emeka Electronics, honest deals, good prices." Customers loved him. His reputation grew. He worked from sunrise to sunset, sleeping in his shop to save rent. And every night, he would look up and whisper, "Mama, Papa, your son is coming home soon." The boy who left Ngopu barefoot at 16 had now become a man of purpose. He had failed, fallen, and risen more times than he could count, but his heart never bent under the weight of life. People often say, when a man carries his destiny with patience, even the gods will stand aside and salute. By the end of that year, Emeka bought his first car, a small, used Toyota Corolla. But to him, it was not just a car, it was a trophy carved from tears. He had saved enough, prayed enough, and worked enough. And now, after 8 long years, the boy from Ngopu was ready to go home. The road back to Ngopu was red and rough, just as he remembered. The wind carried the smell of cassava and firewood. His heart pounded as he saw the old signboard. Welcome to Ngopu village. He smiled, his eyes wet. Home, he whispered. I'm home. The morning sun rose gently over the eastern skies, painting the clouds gold as if heaven itself was preparing for something sacred. On that day, the road to Ngopu seemed different, quieter, softer, almost as though it had been waiting for the return of one of its lost children. Inside a modest silver Corolla car, Emeka sat behind the steering wheel, his eyes glistening with emotion. The engine hummed like a song of victory, and his heart beat fast, not from fear this time, but from joy that words could not hold. He had been away for 8 years, 8 long years of pain, hunger, failure, and faith. He had left as a boy with cracked feet and dreams too big for his pockets. Now he was coming back as a man, strong, humbled, and grateful. He had thought of this day so many times that it felt like a dream. How would his parents look? Were they still alive? Would they recognize him? As he drove past the familiar farms and dusty footpaths, his memory played like an old drumbeat, the laughter of children chasing grasshoppers, the smell of roasted yam, the sound of pesos pounding fufu in the evening. Ngopu hadn't changed much, but he had. When Emeka's car rolled into the village square, the sound of the engine drew attention immediately. Ngopu was not the kind of place where cars entered every day. People looked up from their chores, shading their eyes from the sun. Children ran after the moving car, shouting, "Motor don't come! Motor don't come!" Old men sitting under the mango tree turned their heads slowly. One of them murmured, "Who be that? Whose child is driving car into this our village?" Emeka slowed down as he approached his family's compound, the same small mud house with smoke-stained walls and a roof patched with old zinc sheets. His throat tightened. His heart was now beating like talking drums. He parked the car gently by the side of the house and stepped out slowly, his shoes crunching on the familiar red earth. The air smelled of palm oil and home. Then he saw her. Standing by the doorway, her wrapper tied tightly around her thin waist, was Mama Emeka, older now, her hair streaked with grey, her hands trembling. She had been peeling cassava when she heard the sound of the car. At first, she didn't recognize him. How could she? The last time she saw her son, he was a skinny 16-year-old with torn shorts and bare feet. The man before her was broad-shouldered, clean, and well-dressed, with confidence in his eyes. But something in her spirit stirred. She blinked twice, dropped the cassava, and whispered, "No. It can't be." Emeka's lips quivered as he stepped closer. "Mama, it's me." For a second, she froze like a statue. Then suddenly, she screamed, the cry that tore through the quiet air, half joy, half disbelief. "Chinik. My son. My son is alive." She ran toward him, her hands raised to the sky, tears streaming down her face. Before Emeka could speak, she fell on her knees, beating her chest and crying. "Thank you, God. Thank you, God. You heard my prayers. You didn't let me die in sorrow." Emeka knelt beside her, lifting her gently. His voice broke, "Mama, please stand up. Don't do that. I'm home." But Mama Emeka could not stop crying. She touched his face again and again, as if making sure he was real. "You're alive, after all these years, my son is alive." Her cries drew the attention of neighbors. One by one, they came running, men, women, and children, until the compound was full. "Is that not Emeka, the vegetable seller's son?" one woman asked in disbelief. "Huh. The one who ran away years ago," another added. "Eh. See him now. He's driving a car, oh." They stood at a distance, whispering, their eyes wide with shock and curiosity. These were the same people who had mocked his family, who had called them cursed, who had laughed when he hawked vegetables barefoot. But today, the story had changed. Not long after, Papa Emeka returned from the market, pushing his old barrow as usual. His wrapper was dusty, his shoulders tired. As he approached the compound, he saw the crowd and frowned. "What is happening here?" he asked. Then his eyes fell on the young man standing beside the car. The world seemed to stop. His hands froze on the barrow handle. "Emeka," he whispered. His voice cracked. He blinked as though he couldn't believe his eyes. "Papa," Emeka's voice trembled. "It's me." The old man dropped the barrow. He staggered forward and grabbed his son's shoulders, shaking as tears filled his eyes. My son, I thought you were dead." 8 years, Emeka, 8 years without a word. "We thought the city swallowed you." Emeka hugged his father tightly. "I wanted to come back, Papa, but I had nothing. I promised to change our story first." They both wept like children. It was a reunion that words could not fully describe, a mixture of relief, love, and gratitude. By now, nearly the whole village had gathered. The same people who once mocked Emeka's family now stood speechless, their faces painted with shame and surprise. "See how God works," one old woman muttered. "This life has no balance." Another whispered, "We used to call them the poorest family in Ngopu. Now see, their son came back with a car." Emeka turned to face them. He saw some familiar faces, the same boys who had laughed at his torn clothes, the same women who had gossiped that his family was cursed. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Everyone waited to see if he would mock them in return. But Emeka only smiled. "My people," he said gently, "life is like the wind, it turns when you least expect. When I left this village, I had nothing but hunger and hope. But today, God has remembered us. If I hold any anger in my heart, it means I have not learned what suffering came to teach me." Then he opened the boot of his car and began bringing out packages, bags of rice, oil, wrappers, provisions. "Take these," he said, handing them out. "For all of you. We are still one family in Ngopu." The crowd gasped. Some began to cry. The old men raised their hands in blessing. The women broke into song. "Chinik Imuyo O. God has done it again." That evening, as the sun sank behind the hills and the orange sky bathed the village in peace, Mama Emeka led her son into the small hut that had been their home for decades. She looked around, the same smoke-stained walls, the same mat where he once slept, the same small lamp. She turned to him and smiled through her tears. "My son," she said softly, "when you left, I cried every day. I thought I had lost you. But I never stopped praying. Every night, I called your name before God. I told him, even if I don't live to see it, please bless my child." Emeka knelt before her, holding her hands. "Mama, your prayers built my path. Whenever I wanted to give up, your voice echoed in my heart." She placed a trembling hand on his head. "May your blessings never dry, my son. May your children never taste the hunger you knew. May your name open doors before it's even mentioned." Emeka's eyes filled again. "Amen, Mama." That night, the entire village celebrated. Drums echoed, palm wine flowed, and songs rose to the heavens. Even the stars seemed to dance above Ngopu. People gathered around fires, telling stories about how Emeka had gone from a poor vegetable hawker to a successful businessman. Children listened with wide eyes, learning that patience and faith could turn dust into diamonds. Papa Emeka, now sitting proudly with his friends, smiled as he sipped his drink. "When a man refuses to bow to poverty," he said, "even the ground will one day lift him." And everyone nodded. Emeka, sitting beside his mother, looked around, at the laughter, the warmth, the home that once held so much pain. He realized that success was not just about money or cars. It was about coming back home with peace in your heart.